Richard Caldwell died alone in a glass tower above Chicago. Everyone said it was a heart attack. But one detective noticed something wrong. A cup of coffee left unfinished, a deal left unsigned, and a board of directors who were far too calm. As Detective Marcus Hale follows the trail, he discovers that this was not just a death. It was a decision. A business decision. Behind clean offices and expensive suits hides a criminal empire willing to kill to stay in power. How did the story unfold? Watch the full story in this video. The rain fell steadily over downtown Chicago, washing the streets with cold gray water. Inside the Caldwell Industries headquarters, the city looked distant and quiet through the large glass windows. The building stood tall near the Chicago River, a symbol of power, money, and ambition. At 8:45 p.m., the night security guard found the body. Richard H. Caldwell, the chairman and main commissioner of Caldwell Industries, was lying on the floor of the executive meeting room on the top floor. His suit was neat, his tie still perfectly straight. A half-empty cup of coffee sat on the long wooden table. The lights were on. The room was silent. Paramedics arrived quickly, but it was already too late. At first glance, everything pointed to a heart attack. Richard Caldwell was 62 years old. He worked long hours. He was known to be under constant stress. For the company, his sudden death was tragic, but not impossible. Still, something felt wrong. Detective Marcus Hale arrived at the scene shortly after 10 o'clock. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and moved with quiet confidence. Marcus had spent over 15 years with the Chicago Police Department, specializing in financial crimes and corporate investigations. He had learned one important lesson over the years. Powerful people rarely died without leaving secrets behind. Marcus stood near the doorway and slowly scanned the room. "No signs of struggle?" he asked calmly. "None," replied Officer Jenkins. "No forced entry either. Security cameras show Mr. Caldwell entering the building alone at around 7:30 p.m. Marcus nodded. Caldwell liked to work late. That part made sense. He walked closer to the meeting table. The coffee cup caught his attention. It was placed carefully on a coaster, as if Caldwell had been sitting and thinking, not rushing or panicking. Marcus leaned down and looked at the floor. "No glass broken. No overturned chairs," he said quietly. "Looks too clean." The medical examiner, Dr. Susan Miller, adjusted her gloves and stood up from the body. "Preliminary cause of death appears to be cardiac arrest," she said. "But I'll need a full autopsy to be sure." Marcus appreciated her honesty. "Anything unusual?" She hesitated for a moment. "There's a faint smell in the coffee. Could be nothing. Could be something." Marcus looked at the cup again. "Bag it. I want to test it." Dr. Miller nodded. As they continued examining the room, Marcus noticed a thin folder lying near the edge of the table. It contained printed documents, financial reports, meeting notes, and a highlighted page on top. "What's that?" Marcus asked. Officer Jenkins picked it up. "Looks like internal company files." Marcus flipped through the pages carefully. One line stood out to him. It was circled in red ink. "Project Iron Crown, final approval required." Marcus frowned. "Who approved this?" Jenkins shrugged. "I guess that's something the board was supposed to decide." Marcus slipped the folder into an evidence bag. By midnight, the body was taken away and the scene was cleared. The building fell quiet again, but Marcus's mind did not. The next morning, news of Caldwell's death spread quickly. Every major business channel talked about it. Caldwell Industries was one of the most powerful corporations in Illinois, controlling energy, construction, and logistics projects across the Midwest. At headquarters, the board of directors gathered in the main conference room. Their faces were serious, calm, too calm. Marcus observed from the back of the room. Evelyn Brooks, the company's CEO, spoke first. She was in her early 40s, sharp-eyed, confident, and always in control. "Richard Caldwell was a great leader," she said. His vision built this company. We will honor him by continuing his work." Her voice did not shake. Next to her sat Thomas Reed, the CFO. He adjusted his glasses and nodded slightly. Reed was known for his brilliant financial strategies and his lack of emotion. Jonathan Miller, the chief operations officer, stared at the table, his hands folded. Laura Bennett, the company's legal advisor, remained silent, watching everyone closely. Marcus took mental notes. After the meeting, Marcus approached Evelyn Brooks. "I'm Detective Marcus Hale," he said. "I'll be handling the investigation." "Of course," Evelyn replied politely. "We are fully cooperative." "When was the last time you saw Mr. Caldwell?" Marcus asked. "Yesterday afternoon," she said. He seemed concerned. "We disagreed about a major decision." "What decision?" She paused briefly. "A business expansion plan. Nothing illegal." Marcus smiled slightly. "I'll decide that." Later that day, Marcus reviewed Caldwell's recent emails and calendar. One message stood out. It was sent just 2 hours before his death. Subject: "This cannot move forward. I will not sign it. Asterisk asterisk." There was no reply. Marcus leaned back in his chair. A man about to block a powerful deal. A sudden death. A board of directors with too much to gain. Outside, Chicago moved on as always. Cars honking, trains rumbling, people rushing to work. Inside Marcus's office, a quiet truth began to form. Richard Caldwell did not just die. He stood in the way, and someone decided to remove him. The executive floor of Caldwell Industries felt different after Richard Caldwell's death. The hallways were quiet and conversations stopped whenever someone walked by. Portraits of past leaders hung on the walls, watching silently as the company tried to move forward. Detective Marcus Hale arrived early that morning. He believed that the truth often appeared when people were uncomfortable, and today the board members were exactly that. They were called in one by one for questioning. The first was Evelyn Brooks, the CEO. She entered the interview room calmly, dressed in a dark blue suit. Her posture was straight, her expression controlled. Marcus noticed she did not look tired, even though the company was in crisis. "Thank you for coming in," Marcus said. "Of course," Evelyn replied. "This is a difficult time for all of us." Marcus nodded. "Let's talk about last night. You said you disagreed with Mr. Caldwell about a major decision." "Yes," Evelyn said. "He was blocking a strategic project." "Project Iron Crown?" Marcus asked. Her eyes moved for just a second. "Yes." "Why was it so important?" "It would have given us a strong advantage over our competitors," she explained. "Mr. Caldwell believed it was too aggressive." "Aggressive how?" Marcus asked. Evelyn paused. "Financially risky." Marcus leaned back. "Not illegal?" "No," she said quickly. "Not illegal." Marcus wrote something down but said nothing more. The next person was Thomas Reed, the chief financial officer. Reed sat down stiffly and folded his hands. He spoke slowly and carefully, choosing his words with precision. "I was shocked by Mr. Caldwell's death," Reed said. "He was a brilliant man." "Did you meet him yesterday?" Marcus asked. "Yes. In the late afternoon." "What did you discuss?" Reed adjusted his glasses. "Budget approvals. Project Iron Crown again." "And?" Marcus asked. "And he refused to sign," Reed said. "He believed it could attract legal attention." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "From whom?" "Federal regulators," Reed replied. "Or competitors." "Did that worry you?" Marcus asked. Reed hesitated. "Any delay worries a company." Marcus nodded. "Any enemies inside the board?" Reed smiled slightly. "This is business, detective. Disagreements happen." Jonathan Miller, the chief operations officer, was next. Unlike the others, Jonathan looked nervous. His tie was loose and his hands shook slightly as he sat down. "Mr. Miller," Marcus said gently, You look uncomfortable. I don't like police stations, Jonathan replied. When was the last time you spoke to Richard Caldwell? Jonathan swallowed. That evening. Around 6. What did he say? He said he needed to stop something before it went too far, Jonathan said. He didn't explain. Marcus leaned forward. Did you know what he meant? Jonathan looked down. I had an idea. What idea? That Project Iron Crown wasn't just business, Jonathan said quietly. It was meant to destroy a competitor using unfair methods. Marcus felt a spark of interest. What kind of methods? Jonathan hesitated. Supply chain sabotage, pressure on lenders, quiet threats. Marcus said nothing, letting the silence work. I didn't agree with it, Jonathan added quickly. But I didn't stop it either. The final interview was with Laura Bennett, the company's legal advisor. Laura was calm, observant, and spoke very little. She watched Marcus as carefully as he watched her. You reviewed Project Iron Crown? Marcus asked. Yes, she said. Did you warn Mr. Caldwell? I advised caution, Laura replied. But decisions were already moving forward. Against his will? Marcus asked. Laura folded her hands. The board has power, detective. Not just one man. After the interviews, Marcus returned to his office. The board members told different stories, but they all led to the same place. Project Iron Crown. Marcus requested internal emails, contracts, and financial records related to the project. By evening, his desk was covered in files. One document caught his attention. It showed payments to a consulting firm that did not appear to exist. Marcus called his financial analyst, Rachel Kim. Can you look into this company? He asked, pointing to the file. Rachel frowned. This looks like a shell company. Find out who controls it, Marcus said. Later that night, Marcus visited the top floor again. The room where Caldwell died felt colder now. He stood near the table and imagined Caldwell sitting there, alone, facing pressure from all sides. Something else caught Marcus's eye. The chairs around the table were arranged neatly, except one. One chair was slightly pulled back as if someone else had been there recently. Marcus checked the security logs again. No one else had entered, at least officially. As Marcus left the building, his phone buzzed. It was Rachel. I traced the shell company, she said. It's linked to offshore accounts and to individuals connected with organized crime in Chicago. Marcus stopped walking. So this wasn't just corporate competition, he said. No, Rachel replied. This was something darker. Marcus looked up at the Caldwell Industries tower, glowing against the night sky. The board members were not just fighting for power. They were crossing lines. And Richard Caldwell tried to stop them. That was why he was dead. Detective Marcus Hale believed that money never lied. People did. Documents could be hidden, stories could change, but money always left a trail. And that trail often led to places no one wanted to see. Early that morning, Marcus met Rachel Kim at the Financial Crimes Unit office. Rachel was one of the best analysts in the department. She was quiet, sharp, and patient, exactly what this case needed. Rachel spread several charts and printouts across the table. I followed the payments connected to Project Iron Crown, she said. They moved through 3 shell companies before going offshore. Marcus studied the documents. And the final destination? Accounts in the Cayman Islands, Rachel replied. But the money doesn't stay there long. It comes back to Chicago. Marcus frowned. Why move it out just to bring it back? To clean it, Rachel said. Classic money laundering. Rachel pointed to another file. These payments matched the timeline of pressure against a competitor, Stonebridge Energy. Marcus recognized the name. Stonebridge was a mid-sized company that had recently lost major contracts and credit support. What kind of pressure? Marcus asked. Rachel tapped the page. Their supplier suddenly pulled out. Their bank froze a loan without explanation. and one of their warehouses failed a surprise safety inspection. Marcus leaned back. Someone wanted to crush them. Yes, Rachel said. And Project Iron Crown was the plan. Marcus left the office and drove across the city to the south side of Chicago. He needed answers from someone outside the corporate world. His contact was Frank Russo, a former mob associate who now worked as a confidential informant. Frank met Marcus in a quiet diner near an old train yard. He was nervous, constantly looking around. "You didn't hear this from me," Frank said, stirring his coffee. "But some business guys have been asking for muscle lately." "Muscle for what?" Marcus asked. "To scare people," Frank replied. "Suppliers, inspectors, bank managers." Marcus stayed calm. "Who hired them?" Frank hesitated. "Middlemen, clean suits, big money." "Connected to Caldwell Industries?" Marcus asked. Frank nodded slowly. "Yeah, but not officially." Marcus thanked Frank and left some cash on the table. Outside, the city felt heavier. This was no longer just a corporate crime. It was organized, planned, and protected. Back at his office, Marcus reviewed security footage again from the night Richard Caldwell died. He noticed something he had missed before. One camera froze for exactly 30 seconds. "Technical error?" Marcus muttered. He called the tech department. "I need a deep analysis of that camera glitch." Later that day, Marcus received a call from Daniel Ortiz, a senior operations manager at Caldwell Industries. "I heard you're investigating Project Iron Crown," Daniel said quietly. "We should talk." They met in a small park near Lake Michigan. Daniel looked tired and scared. "I didn't want to be part of it," Daniel said. "But they forced it through." "Who?" Marcus asked. "The board," Daniel replied. "Mostly Reed and Brooks. They had legal cover and outside help." "Help from whom?" Marcus asked. Daniel lowered his voice. "People connected to organized crime." Marcus nodded. "And Caldwell?" "He found out too late," Daniel said. "He wanted to stop it. He planned to expose everything." "Did he say how?" Marcus asked. Daniel shook his head. "Just that he had proof." As Daniel walked away, Marcus felt the pieces coming together. Caldwell blocked the project. He refused to sign. And suddenly he was dead. That night, Marcus reviewed the autopsy report. Dr. Miller had highlighted something important. Trace amounts of a rare chemical compound were found in Caldwell's bloodstream. Not enough to be obvious. Enough to cause cardiac failure over time. Marcus stared at the report. "This wasn't sudden," he whispered. "It was planned." The next morning, Marcus visited Caldwell's former office. With a warrant, he searched every drawer, shelf, and cabinet. Behind a row of books, he found a hidden flash drive. Inside were emails, recordings, and financial spreadsheets. Clear evidence of illegal pressure tactics, money laundering, and secret meetings between board members and criminal intermediaries. One audio recording stood out. Caldwell's voice was calm but firm. "If this continues, I will go to the authorities. This company will not become a criminal enterprise." Another voice replied, "You won't live long enough to do that." Marcus felt a chill. As Marcus left the building, he noticed a black sedan parked across the street. It had been there before. The engine started. The car followed him. Marcus drove calmly, taking random turns. The sedan stayed close. He pulled into a busy parking garage and stopped suddenly. The sedan passed him. Marcus took a deep breath. They knew he was close. That evening, Rachel called again. "I identified the offshore account owner," she said. "It leads to a man named Victor Moretti." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Moretti?" "Yes," Rachel said. "Known associate of the Chicago crime syndicate." Marcus looked out the window at the city lights. This was no longer just about business rivalry. Caldwell Industries had crossed into organized crime, and Richard Caldwell died trying to pull them back. Now Marcus was standing where Caldwell once stood. in the way. Detective Marcus Hale did not sleep much that night. The image of the black sedan followed him into his dreams. When morning came, he knew one thing for certain. The people behind Project Iron Crown were watching him. At the police station, Marcus briefed his team. "We have proof that Richard Caldwell was poisoned over time," Marcus said. "We also have evidence linking Caldwell Industries to organized crime." The room fell silent. Rachel Kim looked worried. "If that's true, then anyone who knows the truth is in danger." Marcus nodded. "Especially Daniel Ortiz." Almost as if on cue, Marcus's phone rang. "Detective Hale," a shaky voice said. "This is Daniel Ortiz. Someone tried to break into my apartment last night." Marcus stood up immediately. "Are you hurt?" "No," Daniel said. "But they left a message." Marcus closed his eyes. "What kind of message?" "They wrote it on my door," Daniel whispered. "Stay silent." Marcus grabbed his jacket. "I'm coming to you. Do not leave your apartment." When Marcus arrived, police officers were already securing the building. Daniel sat on a chair, pale and shaking. "They know I talked to you," Daniel said. "They know everything." Marcus crouched down to Daniel's level. "Listen carefully. You are not safe anymore. We're placing you under protective custody." Daniel nodded quickly. "I'll testify. I swear. Just keep my family safe." Marcus arranged for Daniel to be moved to a secure location outside the city. Before leaving, Daniel handed Marcus a small notebook. "I kept notes," Daniel said. "Meetings, names, dates. I didn't trust email." Marcus took it carefully. "This could save your life." 2 days later, Marcus received devastating news. Daniel Ortiz had been in a serious car accident. The report said his vehicle had lost control on a wet road and crashed into a concrete barrier. The driver of the truck behind him never stopped. Marcus didn't believe it for a second. At the hospital, Daniel lay unconscious, connected to machines. Doctors said he might not wake up. Marcus stood by the bed, anger rising in his chest. "They tried to silence him," Marcus said quietly to Rachel, who stood beside him. Rachel nodded. "And they almost succeeded." Back at headquarters, Marcus reviewed the accident photos. He noticed deep scratches near the brake lines. "Brake failure," Marcus said. "Sabotage." Now it was official. The case was no longer just financial crime. It was attempted murder. Marcus contacted the FBI. This was bigger than city police. Special Agent Emily Carter joined the investigation. She was calm, focused, and experienced in organized crime cases. "We've been watching Victor Moretti for years," Emily said during their first meeting. "But we never had a solid corporate link until now." "You do now," Marcus replied, placing the flash drive and Daniel's notebook on the table. Emily studied the evidence. This could bring down more than one company. That night, Marcus received a call from an unknown number. "You should stop digging," a man's voice said calmly. "This is not your fight." Marcus held the phone tightly. "You killed Richard Caldwell." The man laughed softly. "He killed himself by standing in our way." The line went dead. The next day, Rachel discovered something disturbing. "Daniel's notebook includes a meeting scheduled the night Caldwell died," she said. "It lists Brooks, Reed, and a man named VM. Marcus felt a chill. Victor Moretti. That meant Caldwell was not alone that night. Someone else had been in the building. Marcus reviewed the security footage again. With FBI support, they enhanced the frozen camera frame. A shadow appeared. A man. Entering the hallway near the executive meeting room. No face. No badge. Just enough to prove someone else was there. Meanwhile, Caldwell Industries released a public statement. "We deny all allegations of wrongdoing," Evelyn Brooks said on television. "Our company is a victim of speculation." Marcus watched the broadcast in silence. "Too calm," he said. Emily nodded. "People like her believe money protects them." Later that evening, Marcus went home. As he stepped out of his car, a brick smashed through his front window. A note was tied to it. Last warning. Marcus stood still. Fear crept in, but it did not control him. He called Emily. "They're escalating," he said. "Which means we're close." Emily agreed. "We'll move faster." The next morning, Daniel Ortiz woke up. Marcus rushed to the hospital. Daniel's voice was weak, but his eyes were clear. "They tried to kill me," Daniel whispered. "I know," Marcus said. "But you survived." Daniel took a deep breath. Caldwell met them that night. Brooks and Reed wanted him to sign the approval. Moretti was there to scare him. Marcus leaned closer. "And the poison?" "Already in his system," Daniel said. "They planned it weeks earlier." Marcus felt a deep anger, but also clarity. This was no accident. This was an execution hidden behind business decisions. As Marcus left the hospital, he knew the stakes had changed. This was now a war between truth and power, and there would be no turning back. The pressure was finally breaking them. Inside Caldwell Industries, fear moved faster than any business decision. Executives whispered in hallways. Phones rang and stopped suddenly. Lawyers worked late into the night. The confidence that once filled the building was gone. Detective Marcus Hale felt it too. "They know we're closing in," Marcus said to FBI agent Emily Carter as they reviewed new reports. "People make mistakes when they're scared." Emily nodded. "And some try to run." That same morning, Thomas Reed, the CFO, made his decision. He packed one suitcase. Just one. Inside were clothes, cash, and a laptop. Reed told no one. Not the board. Not Evelyn Brooks. He believed he was smarter than everyone else. At O'Hare International Airport, Reed moved quickly through the terminal. His flight was headed to Zurich with a connecting stop that would make tracking him harder. What Reed didn't know was that his passport had already been flagged. Marcus watched Reed on a security monitor from the airport operations room. "There he is," Marcus said calmly. "Let him pass security," Emily replied. "We want to see who helps him." Reed cleared security and headed toward the gate. Then a man approached him, well-dressed, confident. Marcus leaned closer to the screen. "Who's that?" Emily checked her tablet. "Victor Moretti's fixer." Reed and the man spoke briefly. Then Reed handed over a flash drive. "That's our proof," Marcus said. "Move in." FBI agents surrounded Reed near the gate. He froze. "This is a mistake," Reed said loudly. "I'm a respected executive." Emily stepped forward. "You're under arrest for conspiracy, financial crimes, and involvement in murder." Reed's face went pale. Across the city, Evelyn Brooks was watching the news when she saw Reed being taken away. Her hands tightened around the remote. "They're sacrificing him," she whispered. Evelyn knew Reed would talk. He always did what benefited him most. She called her lawyer Laura Bennett. "We need to protect the company," Evelyn said. Laura hesitated. "Or protect yourself?" Evelyn ended the call. That afternoon, Marcus and Emily questioned Reed at the federal building. Reed sat in a small room, no longer confident, no longer powerful. "They forced me," Reed said quickly. "Brooks planned everything. I just handled the numbers." Marcus leaned forward. "You helped poison Richard Caldwell." Reed swallowed. "It wasn't supposed to kill him so fast. Just slow him down. Buy time." Emily placed photos on the table. Daniel Ortiz almost died too. Reed closed his eyes. "Moretti handled that." "Then help us," Marcus said. "Tell us everything." Reed broke. He explained how Project Iron Crown was designed to destroy Stonebridge Energy using illegal pressure, bribed inspectors, and criminal intimidation. He admitted the poison was supplied through an offshore contact connected to Moretti. He also revealed that Evelyn Brooks approved every major step. "She said Caldwell was weak," Reed said. "She said the company needed a new kind of leadership." Meanwhile, Laura Bennett realized the walls were closing in. She reviewed her emails and saw subpoenas coming. She made a choice. Laura contacted the FBI. "I want immunity," she said. "I can give you documents." That evening, Laura handed over encrypted files, legal strategies used to hide illegal activity, false compliance reports, and signed approvals from Evelyn Brooks. Emily looked through the files. "This is enough to bury her." Laura's voice shook. "I told myself it was just business." Marcus looked at her. "It never is." The next morning, FBI agents entered Caldwell Industries with search warrants. Employees watched in silence as files, computers, and servers were taken away. Evelyn Brooks stood in her office, staring out at the Chicago skyline. She had built her life on control. Now it was slipping away. Marcus entered with Emily. "Evelyn Brooks," Emily said, "you're under arrest." Evelyn turned slowly. "For what?" "For conspiracy, racketeering, and murder," Marcus replied. Evelyn laughed softly. "You think this ends with me?" Marcus met her eyes. "It ends with the truth." As agents placed her in handcuffs, Evelyn's calm finally cracked. "You don't understand this world," she said bitterly. "Power doesn't disappear. It just changes hands." Marcus watched her leave. Not today. That night, Victor Moretti disappeared. His warehouses were empty. His offices abandoned. Emily reviewed the situation. "He knew we were coming." Marcus nodded. "But he left something behind." Rachel Kim entered with new information. "We found bank transfers. Moretti is bleeding money." Marcus smiled slightly. "Then he's running scared." As Marcus left the building, the city felt different. Lighter. But the case was not over yet. The most dangerous man was still free. And desperate men were always the most dangerous. Chicago was quiet in the early morning, but inside the federal courthouse, everything moved fast. Files were stacked high. Phones rang nonstop. The case against Caldwell Industries was now one of the largest corporate crime investigations the city had ever seen. Detective Marcus Hale stood near a window watching the river flow slowly below. The city looked calm, but he knew better. This case was far from over. Victor Moretti was still free. "He's hiding," FBI agent Emily Carter said, entering the room with a folder in her hand. "But he's running out of places." Marcus turned to her. "What do we have?" Emily opened the folder. "His money is moving again. Small amounts. Emergency transfers. That tells me he's preparing to disappear." Marcus nodded. People like Moretti never stopped trusting money. Meanwhile, the court process moved forward. Evelyn Brooks, Thomas Reed, and Laura Bennett were formally charged. News cameras surrounded the courthouse every day. Reporters spoke about corruption, power, and greed. Inside a secure room, Marcus met with Daniel Ortiz, who was now under full witness protection. Daniel looked stronger, but his eyes still carried fear. "I'll testify," Daniel said firmly. "I owe Caldwell that much." Marcus placed a reassuring hand on the table. "You're doing the right thing." Daniel took a deep breath. They used business meetings as cover. Decisions were made that ruined lives. Caldwell tried to stop it. That's why they killed him. Across the city, Victor Moretti watched the news from a small apartment near the outskirts of Chicago. The blinds were closed. The TV volume was low. Moretti's face showed no panic, only anger. "They broke the rules," he said to his associate. "Executives are supposed to protect each other." His associate looked nervous. "The FBI is close." Moretti stood up. "Then we move tonight." But moving was harder than expected. That afternoon, Rachel Kim discovered something important. "I found a pattern," she told Marcus. "Moretti is using old warehouse properties to move cash. One location hasn't changed activity in weeks." Marcus leaned forward. "Where?" "Near the old steel district," Rachel replied. Marcus contacted Emily immediately. "I think we found him." That night, federal agents surrounded the warehouse. The building looked abandoned, with broken windows and rusted doors. Marcus and Emily moved in quietly. Inside they found empty rooms except for one. A table, a laptop, fresh coffee. "He was here," Emily whispered. Suddenly footsteps echoed. Victor Moretti stepped out of the shadows. "Detective Hale," Moretti said calmly. "I was wondering when you'd arrive." Marcus raised his weapon. "It's over, Moretti." Moretti smiled. "You think prison scares me? I've lived in cages my whole life." Emily stepped closer. "You ordered the poisoning of Richard Caldwell." Moretti's smile faded. "Caldwell was a problem. Problems get solved." Before Moretti could move, agents rushed in and restrained him. The most powerful criminal in the city was finally in custody. The next weeks passed quickly. The courtroom was full on the first day of trial. Cameras flashed as the defendants were brought in. Evelyn Brooks sat stiffly, her confidence gone. Thomas Reed avoided eye contact. Laura Bennett stared at her hands. Victor Moretti sat alone, his expression cold. The prosecutor laid out the case step by step. "This was not simple competition," she said. "This was organized crime hidden behind business decisions." Daniel Ortiz testified. His voice shook at first, but he grew stronger as he spoke. "They destroyed a company. They planned murder. They used fear as a tool." Rachel Kim explained the money trail. Charts showed how funds moved from corporate accounts to criminal networks. Dr. Susan Miller testified about the poison. It was designed to look natural. A slow, silent killer. Marcus watched from the back of the courtroom. He felt the weight of the case lift slowly. Then came the verdict. The jury found all defendants guilty. Evelyn Brooks received a life sentence for murder and racketeering. Thomas Reed was sentenced to decades in prison. Laura Bennett, due to her cooperation, received a reduced sentence. Victor Moretti was sentenced to multiple life terms. As the courtroom emptied, Marcus stepped outside into the sunlight. Emily stood beside him. "You did good." Marcus exhaled slowly. "Caldwell did the brave thing. We just finished it." Chicago moved on. Trains, traffic, people chasing dreams. But somewhere deep in its history, this case would remain. A reminder that power without limits always falls. And truth, no matter how delayed, always finds a way. The city felt different after the trial ended. Chicago did not stop moving. Trains still ran on time. Cars filled the streets. People hurried to work, carrying coffee cups and quiet worries. But beneath the noise, something had changed. A powerful truth had been spoken, and the city had listened. Detective Marcus Hale stood on the bridge over the Chicago River, watching the water flow below. The cold wind brushed against his face. He often came here when he needed to think. The case was over. Evelyn Brooks would spend the rest of her life in prison. Thomas Reed would never return to the world of power he once controlled. Victor Moretti, the man who believed himself untouchable, would die behind bars. Justice had been delivered. Yet Marcus knew justice never felt complete. Richard Caldwell was still gone. A week later, Marcus attended a small memorial service. It was held in a quiet church not far from the city center. There were no cameras, no reporters. Only family, close friends, and a few co-workers who truly knew Caldwell. Daniel Ortiz sat near the front. He looked stronger now, calmer. Witness protection had given him a new identity and a new start, but the past still followed him. Marcus took a seat beside him. "He would be proud," Daniel whispered. Marcus nodded. He stood up when no one else did. After the service, Marcus met Dr. Susan Miller outside. "Cases like this remind me why details matter," she said. "The smallest things can expose the biggest lies." Marcus smiled faintly. "And the biggest lies hide behind the cleanest offices." Back at the police department, life slowly returned to normal. New cases arrived. New files filled Marcus's desk. But this case stayed with him. One afternoon, Marcus received a letter. It had no return address. Inside was a single page written in careful handwriting. Thank you for finishing what Richard started. He believed in doing the right thing even when it cost him everything. Marcus folded the letter and placed it in his drawer. Across the city, Caldwell Industries no longer existed. The company had been broken apart by regulators. Assets were sold. Executives were replaced. Employees found new jobs. Power structures fell. What replaced them was quieter, slower, more careful. Emily Carter visited Marcus one last time before transferring to another city. You changed things here, she said. Marcus shook his head. Caldwell did. I just followed the truth. Emily smiled. That's what makes a good investigator. That evening, Marcus went home earlier than usual. He cooked dinner, something he rarely had time to do. The television played softly in the background, reporting on politics, business, and weather. No mention of Caldwell. No mention of the case. Life moved on. Later, Marcus received a call from Rachel Kim. I wanted to say goodbye, she said. I'm taking a new position in Washington. Marcus felt a moment of loss. They're lucky to have you. Rachel laughed softly. We made a good team. Yes, Marcus said. We did. That night, Marcus dreamed of the executive meeting room, the long table, the coffee cup, the silence. But this time, Richard Caldwell stood up from his chair and walked away, peaceful. The next morning, Marcus returned to the bridge over the river. The sun reflected off the water, bright and clear. Chicago looked strong again. Marcus understood something then. Crime did not come from darkness alone. It came from ambition without limits, from people who believed money made them invisible. And justice did not come from strength. It came from courage, from people willing to stand in the way, like Caldwell, like Daniel, like anyone who refused to stay silent. Marcus took a deep breath and turned away from the river. Another case waited for him. Another truth needed protection. But this story was finished, and Chicago would remember it, even if only in small ways. In the decisions made more carefully, in the power questioned more often, in the silence broken before it became deadly. The city moved forward, and so did Marcus Hale.